morning to all of you out there. Welcome to the program agenda. I'm your host, Cito Beltran. We are broadcasting live from Lipa City. Yes, we are doing a test run here, remote here in Lipa, and we do hope that you are getting a good signal, a good reception, and we do hope that you are subscribed to Signal TV and watching us via channels 8 or channel 250, as well as on facebook.com/onenewsph. Now, today is March 1, 2021. I do hope it's a great beginning for us, especially as we do this test run, because it is part of a desire, a vision that I'd like to believe comes from the Lord, to be able to do it from my small backyard farm. I'd like to thank, among others, Marco Borlongan of PLDT Home Fiber Internet. Yan po, kung hindi po kayo naniniwala, well, this is evidence. I'm here in supposedly provincial setting, remote area. Well, not really remote. It's already Lipa is a beautiful city, a developing city. Pero, ayun pa, ganun pa man, meron po kami ditong PLDT Home Fiber. Naka 100 Mbps tayo dito. Thank you, Marco Borlongan. I also want to thank Christopher Salva of Best Deal Marketing. They're the ones who installed our air conditioning here in the studio. Studio, no? May kahon lang po tayo dito. Maliit na kahon. Okay, nilagyan lang natin ng konting background para maiba naman. Ano? In any case, also, I want to praise the Lord for this vision, for this desire. And then last but not the least, my technical support services manager, my wife, Karen Vogelsang Beltran, for putting up with me during this first day jitters. In any case, today we are going to be speaking to two gentlemen. One is Undersecretary Epimaco Densing III of the Department of Interior and Local Government. Alamin po natin ano ba talaga yung magiging patakaran. What are the new rules, or what is the policy of engagement as far as travel in the Philippines is concerned? Because as you may have heard or read in the Philippine Star, the IATF, okay, interim task force against emerging diseases, has declared that there will no longer be a requirement for COVID testing. Naku po, ang daming maluluging mga kumpanya na nag-invest sa RT-PCR testing, ano. But that's life, Better malugi for now kesa naman sa maindulto. So, we will find out from Usec Densing what are the guidelines. And may mga allegations kasi na parang same old. Sinabi ng national government, kumbaga, pinas-break ng national government yung responsibilidad sa local governments. But in the end, you still will be forced to meet health requirements as per LGUs. In any case, let's go to the next topic. The next topic will be discussion with Professor Guido David of the OCTA Research Group, kasi medyo alert sila kasi the statistics are indicating there is a rising number of cases. Now, the question is, hindi naman pwedeng sabihin dahil ito sa Pasko. Hindi naman pwedeng sabihin dahil ito doon sa yung piyesta ng Nazareno sa Quiapo. Not associated with mass gathering. What is the likelihood that this is all because of the renewed vigor and the enthusiasm of Filipinos with the new year to go out? And did we put down our defenses? Actually, sa totoo lang po, marami sa inyo gumagala, walang mask. In any case, ayun na naman ako, in any case ako lang, ewan ko bakit in any case, no? Let's now go to the front page of the Philippine Star. The country's COVID-19 vaccination program is set to start today. This after China's donation of 600,000 doses of Sinovac vaccine arrived yesterday. Cabinet officials are also ready to get inoculated in public, while President Duterte is still waiting for the advice of his doctor on whether he will take the Sinovac jab or go for another vaccine brand. Alam niyo po, ako sa totoo lang, medyo naisip ko nga eh. Hintayin natin magkaroon ng ilang pirasong AstraZeneca o Pfizer at yun na ipaturok publicly dun sa mga ibang cabinet members para magkaalaman. Kasi may haka-haka po, may mga chismis, ano? There are rumors that some cabinet officials actually got vaccinated through that first batch of vaccines that the PSG had. That would really lift the suspicion and clear the air as far as that rumor is concerned. In any case, di ba kasi kung biglang may umangal, hindi, ayoko niyan. Malamang at malamang. Kasi kung Sinovac yung na-vaccinate siya, inulit, pareho lang yun, para ka lang na-booster. In any case, however, the arrival of the AstraZeneca vaccines will be delayed 1 week due to challenges in global supply, says Health Secretary Francisco Duque III. The AstraZeneca vaccines are coming from the COVAX facility of the World Health Organization. Yan po, no, medyo, ating pag-aralan yan, bantayan natin yan kasi 600,000 kahapon. Tapos yung sa AstraZeneca, sana naman yung AstraZeneca, milyon na, no? Ang dumating, daan-daan libo. Hindi yung below 1 million. Kasi, a drop in the bucket. Okay, after the unfortunate shooting incident between members of the Philippine National Police and Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency, Senator Panfilo Ping Lacson is pushing for a policy change. Hindi ko nga lang masabi kung ano ang babaguhin mo dyan kasi hindi na kailangang i-memorize yan. Alam naman nila yung procedure na yan. Kanya lang po ito ang problema. Our problem when these situations happen is una-unahan. Parang agawan base, una-unahang mapuri, una-unahang ma-promote, and kung minsan, nagkakabulagaan, they kind of want to surprise the enemy. And unfortunately, in this situation, they surprised each other. They were not enemies. And I won't make fun of it because 3 people died in this mistake, in this very grave mistake. So, anyway. And let's go to some better news. The White Beach of Boracay Island and Nakpan Beach in El Nido, Palawan made it to TripAdvisor's top 25 beaches in Asia. Yan, pag malaki natin yan, nasa atin yung mga beaches na yan. I only hope and pray to God that with this new policies being set down by the IATF and hopefully by the DILG, Filipinos can actually now get to enjoy what most of the world are reading about. Magano nasa likuran mo na, hindi mo pa ma-enjoy, okay? And I just want to encourage all of you out there. This setting that we have here, hindi po ito pagyayabang, hindi po ito, maiba naman. No, I have this small place in Lipa, and I said, my goal is to eventually move to Lipa, and this is part of that set goal, to do some work here, gradually move here, and sana ganyan din ang mangyari sa ating tourism. So, to find out more about that, let's now move to our next interview, our first interview. Mamadali, no? Excited. Okay, let's speak with the Undersecretary for Operations at the Department of Interior and Local Government, none other than Usec Epimaco Densing III. Sir, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Cito, and to all your followers, good morning.
Okay, nice to see that you are in good health. Mukhang nasa opisina ka na, sir.
Yeah, para sa'yo.
I'm flattered.
Usually
I'm flattered.
dumarating ako around 8:10, 8:15, so I had to leave early.
Okay, well, thank you. It's a good way to start the month. It's March 1. It's a Monday, so a good way to start the month. Now, Yusek Densing, paki-clarify lang po. Could you clarify for our viewers what are the policy, directions, guidelines, or reality of the IATF announcement na ito po, no, isa-isahin ko na lang and maybe you can react to each one. No more mandatory swab tests, quarantine for travel within the country, except if local government units require it.
Yeah, I was the one who presented it and proposed it in the IATF. No, so it came from an interagency discussion to ease up travel restrictions. So this was a sojourn for 3 weeks, no, that we had to talk to the various agencies, including our local officials, the governors and mayors. Actually, almost all of those proposals were okayed by our local officials. And prior to my presentation with the IATF last Friday, only the issue of testing was the one being resisted to by our governors and mayors. No? So what is important right now is that you can travel without uh, bringing documents such as travel authority, which is issued by the PNP, Task Force COVID Shield. And there's no more health clearance that you have to get from your local health office. No? We made this proposal. I primarily asked this to be struck out because these are already irrelevant documents as of today. Our Philippine National Police has been deluged with a lot of requests for travel authority. They've issued more than 1 million for the past months, and I've said instead of focusing their attention on peace and order, they're just issuing travel authority. So we agreed to struck it out. No? The other one is the issuance of health clearances from the local government units because, again, it's already irrelevant because even if you get your local health clearance, if you travel 2 or 3 days after, it's still possible that you will be infected of the disease while travel. No? So we've already struck them out. So our travelers can already move around with those documents. So the issue of testing is, ni-reverse na lang natin, we reversed it. The general rule right now is in the absence of a local regulation, testing is no longer required for a traveler. No? What we did right now is to put clinical testing or clinical assessment in the port or terminal of origin and port or terminal of destination. So in other words, hindi na ito yung simple temperature gun. It will be a clinical assessment to be supervised by a medical doctor. So this is no longer a temperature check being done by the security guard. So it's a much deeper assessment.
Alam mo, ilang beses na ako namatay eh. Kasi kada pupunta ako sa hardware, pupunta ako sa mall, titirahin ako ng temperature gun. Ang temperature ko daw 33. Sabi ko, alam mo, anak, bangkay na ba ako? Mukha pa naman akong buhay eh.
Again, we're making, we want to do that. No? Yan ang importante. Second is, we put there, this ended up to become the compromise with our governors and mayors because even the governors and mayors are not fully subscribed to the fact that testing should be a requirement. First of all, some governors has allowed entry of travelers without testing. What is important is when they enter the LGU, there is no symptoms because this is a revelation from the Department of Health during our interagency consultation. Mandatory testing is not mandatory if you do not manifest any symptoms of the virus or if you have not been a patient or nor been exposed to a COVID-19 patient. So testing is really not a requirement. What is important, which is being emphasized by the Department of Health, so that there will be a 95% chance of less transmission is we practice minimum public health standards. I specifically asked that question. So if we practice minimum public health standard, meaning face shield, face mask, social distancing, and sanitizing our hands, 95%, you will not be able to transmit if you're asymptomatic, and you will not be infected of COVID-19 if you are walking in that area where there is a potential infection. So
Kaysa,
importante is yung minimum public health standards.
sa totoo na nga lang, Yusek, sa totoo na lang, yung face shield, merong mga bagong face shield ngayon, yung medyo parang bilog, bubble type. You can barely breathe combining the mask and the shield. You can barely breathe. Some people are going, and I said, yan lang hindi nakakalat kung meron ka, papatayin mo yung sarili mo.
Tama po yun. Kaya nga ang gagawin namin, we will be issuing an advisory to our local governments, because we already issued this advisory even as early as last year, no? That local governments must pass ordinances penalizing people going out without practicing minimum public health standards. And based on our records, out of the more than 1,500 local government units, only 878 have ordinances, and around 600 have those ordinances with penalties. So this will be while we've already eased restrictions in terms of documents or documentary requirements to travel, we will be much stricter in the imposition of minimum public health standards and penalizing those who will go out without your face mask, face shield, and social distancing.
Okay,
So that will be the key concern.
Yeah, Yusek, congratulations. I mean, I really want people to compliment, to hear this compliment to you because, and also to the DILG, no? Kasi parang for the longest time, the impression was parang ang mga taong gobyerno hindi nag-iisip eh. And it is good for you to be an example that you guys are studying, that you are discussing it with the DOH, and the changes will be forthcoming. And kung meron mang parang sobrang higpit in the past, it is simply because we don't want people to die. Now, having said that, paano ba, meron na ba kayong, have you conducted some form of secret survey or surveillance sa mga iba-ibang bayan or other cities, towns all over the country? Because many people seem to agree that if the minute you go out of Metro Manila, there are a lot of old people and young people who are going about living their lives. And the impression is, kayo lang mga tiga Metro Manila, kayo, no? Kasi nasa lipa na ako. Kayo lang tiga Metro Manila na prapraning dyan dapat luwagan din ninyo. What's your comment about that? Kasi parang sabi nila, if the DILG conducted a secret survey or surveillance, they may discover that in the large part, many provinces, towns, and cities outside Metro Manila are actually more lax.
Actually, there's no survey, Cito, no? But I personally went out several times the past months, at least twice in a week, that I go to the malls, to the open areas. And in the past 2 weeks, I've been in the provinces kasi bumabiyahe na talaga ako. I was in Dumaguete, I was in Davao, for me to personally observe, no? In Metro Manila, the whole month of the last quarter of December up to January, they were practicing minimum public health standards, face mask, face shield. And well, true enough, yung mga above 70, which is dapat bawal lumabas, at saka below 18 years old and below 15 years old na bawal din dapat lumabas, nasa labas na, no? Together with their parents. So in other words, there's already that laxity in terms of the age. Pero yung importante sa akin doon yung minimum public health standard.
Yeah.
However, apparently, as the cases, and if you look at the cases at those times, last quarter and January, ang cases natin mababa, between 500 at the lowest to a high of 2,300, or an average of 1,213 or 1,4. So napo-contain natin, no? However, itong February medyo mabigat. Nung paglalabas-labas ko and to my observation dito sa NCR, medyo meron na hindi nagpa-practice ng minimum public health standards. No? And this is the reason why itong past week may nakikita na ako na ang cases natin umaabot na ng 2,000. So I really indulge the public, no? May practice minimum public health standards when you go out. Kasi ito talagang this is already has an epidemiological study that there is 95% less risk kung nakapa-practice tayo ng minimum public health standards.
Okay,
So ito
but
ang gusto ko i-emphasize, even to travelers.
yeah, but the question here is, saan nagmumula? Meron na ba tayong pinpoint location or source of all of these rise in cases? Because, you know, someone in the hospital must be or should be gathering data, tiga saan ka, saan kayo nagtatrabaho, para more or less. Kasi I remember last year, you guys told me, Cito, ang problema natin was Calabarzon because kumakain ng sabayan, nagyoyosi ng sabay-sabay, and doon nagkakahawahan. But that seems to have been addressed. Now, where are these new sources coming from? Like yung Pasay. Parang
Pasay.
we know Pasay is a problem, but what nobody seems to have talked about is where did the problem come from or what caused the problem?
Yep. Right now, ang problema natin sa Metro Manila is Pasay. I think Navotas and Malabon. No? There are increasing cases right now. Again, para sa akin, I think there's already a laxity in the imposition or practice of minimum public health standards among our fellow Filipinos, at least in the National Capital Region. And I personally observed it the past 2 weeks. So I would really suggest for people to practice that when they go out. And again, all over the country, this is something that we'll have to do. And that's why I'm really pushing that all our LGUs with passed these ordinances, penalizing people not practicing minimum public health. Ito lang talaga ang pamamaraan right now not to transmit or be infected of the disease.
Usec, suggestion na lang, no? Mabuti na sa akin manggaling para ako na lang awayin ng mga mayor kung gusto nila, no? Pero ang tanong ko lang, instead of focusing on the road clearing, na meron pa silang deadline na pag hindi nyo na-meet itong deadline, masususpindi kayo, kakasuhan namin kayo, maybe we should shift things around and okay, now let's put that road clearing to the side muna. Total, konti lang naman na nakakalabas, and let's focus on LGUs, barangays who are not strictly imposing the health protocols.
Well, too late the hero, no? Kasi February 15 yung aming deadline, and they've been evaluated starting February 16 until March 2, no? So under evaluation na sila ngayon, patapos na. We'll come out with our results by next week. But siguro ang mangyayari lang Cito will just be lighter in terms of penalizing them. And
That's for the road. No, that's for the road clearing.
Yes.
Okay, but what about this new problem na we are all concerned with? Yung medyo we put our guards down. Kasi parang,
that's why we will be issuing the advisory. I think baka lalabas na yun today or tomorrow to tell them to pass those ordinances. And again, I had conversations with our governors and city mayors and municipal mayors, and I told them we have to re-emphasize that especially that we are now doing an ease and restriction in our travel. I mean, kailangan talaga natin mag-ease din para gumalaw rin yung tao. Remember, in 2019, tourism contributed more or less around 11% of our gross domestic product. Halos wipe out po yan noong 2020, kaya po bagsak yung ating ekonomiya. We are the worst performing economy in Asia and most probably in the world. And tama lang po yan, kasi ang priority ni Presidente Duterte for us to ma-contain yung disease, hindi tayo magkasakit. And we are fairly successful in containing the disease. Maganda po yung ranking natin in terms of COVID-19 response worldwide. Pero dahil na-contain na natin, kailangan na natin mabigyan ng pagkakataon. Kumita naman yung ating tourism industry.
Yeah, but no arguments there, Usec, no? Let people travel, let people be responsible, but who's going to be the sheriff? Who's going to be the marshal? Kasi parang may nangyayari lang sa only when you have penalties do things happen. What sort of penalties will the mayor or the barangay head get if the DILG observes that in their area, because it has to be the barangay captain first and then the mayors kung napapabayaan itong health protocols?
Well, on the citizen who will violate any ordinance, no. What is allowed by law is that they can penalize between 2,500 to 5,000 pesos. No?
Mm.
For purposes of being incarcerated, mga 3 to 5 days. So we leave it up to the local government what kind of penalty and how much they will impose as penalties. No? And much to that is really to tell our governors, our mayors, to tell the barangays down the ground, including the Philippine National Police, and sa amin manggagaling yan, no, to impose these ordinances. And I remember suggesting these
Okay, pero
governors.
Usec, fair is fair. Multahan mo ko kung hindi ko ginawa, kung hindi ko sinunod yung ordinance. Pero what about yung mga barangay captain na kung ano-ano inaatupag pero yung mga bata pakalat-kalat, yung mga tao pakalat-kalat na walang face mask?
Yun siguro bigyan ng administrative sanction naman. Pag hindi naman nila sinunod, no? When say administrative sanction, they can be suspended, no? By the governors from their work. Kasama na yung barangay. So, kailangan talaga i-communicate ito ng maayos. The communication that our local government officials is key to this, no? Up to the barangay level.
Yeah, kasi ang problema is when we have an outbreak because a barangay captain did not do his part or the tanods did not do their part, then the next thing will happen is the next barangay will have an outbreak. And, much like Pasay. So, I think that's what some people are saying, no? Na okay lang, multahan kami. Pero ito namang mga politiko namin, dapat din makastigo o mamultahan. In any case, Usec, meron akong katanungan dito. Paki-clarify lang po ba with the new IATF protocol in place, what can LGUs do and not do? Kasi sabi ninyo hindi na kailangan ng mask pero kailangan sa kanila pa rin yung desisyon o diskarte.
Well, one is they can still impose border controls, no, or security issues once you enter their jurisdiction. So kasama na dito yung clinical assessment before ka papasukin. So yun yung una. The other one is at their option. Again, the general rule is no more testing. But if the local government, as a reasonable regulation because of increasing cases, they may require testing upon entry or even testing before travel to their specific local government unit. Yun na lang ang naging exception that became the compromise in the IATF discussion. Remember, to some extent, we have to honor the fact that they are politicians, and the reason why they're imposing this is because this is the feedback that they're receiving on the ground. So, ang sa amin is while we want testing as only to be done if you manifest symptoms or if you have been exposed to a COVID-19 patient or you're a COVID-19 patient yourself, at least that's the general rule. In fact, Cebu has already before pa namin na-issue, no, but this was already been there in the omnibus guidelines. Nauna na si Cebu, naunahan lang kami. But again, wala naman siyang binabiolate because it's already existing in the omnibus guidelines in the implementation of community quarantine in the country.
Okay, medyo napipiko na yata kasi parang nahihilo na rin and I can't blame some of our some of our governors kasi para silang magician hindi nila alam yung balancing act, etc. Now,
doon lang kami nagka-problema sa discussions ko with the league officials, no, with the governors and mayors. Hindi talaga kami nagkasundo doon sa testing. Kaya sige, dalhin na lang natin sa IATF. Let's see what yun ang naging compromise. All others, mayag na sila.
Okay, I hope I'm up on the money here and not just merely being optimistic, no? Kasi may nakasulat dito, actually, sinabi mo kanina, yung clinical exposure assessment to be strictly implemented in all ports of entry and exit. Usec, does this mean that pati yung mga barko, larga na? Kasi marami tayong mga kaibigan nagsasabi, Sir, pakilabi mo naman pakikulit mo naman na makabiyahe na sa barko ang karamihan. Although may mga bumabiyahe na raw, pero parang pahirapan. Will this directive from the DILG lead to a more liberalized travel by boat? And
Yes.
also sa bus, paano sa bus yung mga provincial buses?
Okay, sa barko, pareho na yan, no? So air and sea terminals and ports, ganun na, same protocols na po tayo. So wala nang hihingi na dokumento. Sa land, especially if you're coming from the National Capital Region, part of the decision was for private bus terminals not to operate. In other words, our bus terminals will now be centralized with the 5 integrated terminal exchange of our DOTR or our LTFRB. So nililimit mo ngayon yung assessment. Alam mo na doon ka lang sa 5 sasakay. And kinonsulta namin to sa LTFRB. Sabi nila, kasyang-kasya lahat ng mga bus sa buong Metro Manila doon sa kanilang 5 ITX, no? Yung terminals nila. So doon na lang sa 5 lahat ng sakayan at doon magkakaroon lahat ng clinical assessment. So mas makokontrol mo ngayon ang mga taong gabiyahe.
Pero how are we going to do that? Kasi if you have so many buses per hour, medyo libo yung i-assess natin. Do we do the clinical assessment pre-departure and arrival or pag-arrive lang, wala nang pre-departure clinical assessment?
Well, I saw a document from the DOTR. It's an internal document addressed to their officials. The requirement of the clinical assessment. So I would assume that as of today, ayusin po nila yung kanilang terminals to have an area where they will have a clinical assessment. Mabilis lang naman ho ito. I would think it would be 2 to 3 minutes ng ating mga health workers, again, supervised by a medical doctor. Tapos may mga isolation areas na rin na i-require. So I would think doon yung sa terminal. Doon sa destination naman, again, if it's a public terminal, then I think there will also be a clinical assessment there by a clinical assessment team. This time around, merong local government official who will be form part of the local health assessment team.
Okay, last question. Who's supposed to supply the doctors or nurse ba yan or paramedic ba yan?
Yung ahensya na po, for example, kung NAIA, I think CAAP yan, I think the NAIA will have to organize their health assessment teams. Sa terminal naman, sa local, again, if it's a public, kung sa airport, for example, yung airport destination will have to assemble, but this time around, may isasama silang local health official as part of the health assessment team.
Okay, well, at least we're starting the show and the month and the week with positive news. Makakabiyahe na, wala nang mga required RT-PCR test, hindi na required yung travel document na yung permit to travel from the PNP, hindi na kailangan yung mga health certificate. So pero pagdating nila sa LGU, kailangan pa rin silang i-test, health assessment ng medical person, and then depende na rin. But what happens if the LGU says, teka, may nervous kami dito, may malala pa kami dito, kailangan dito may RT-PCR, pwede ba yun?
Well, one thing first, no? Meron tayong app na gagamitin, yung SPAS, no? For purposes of communicating the travel to the LGU, yung travel to the LGU. So, kung galing ako NCR, maglagay ako dun sa SPAS, then at least the LGU will know that you are traveling and you will be given a QR code. So, pang natin to, pang contact tracing, no? That's number 1. Number 2, kung talagang sabi ni LGU, natatakot kami, then they will require testing. So, ang gagawin na lang po ni traveler, aalamin niya lang yung probinsya, mga probinsya, na mag-impose ng testing. And again, we are only limited to RT-PCR because again, it was mentioned by the DOH that antigen is really not the right testing to be able to know whether you are really positive or negative. Kasi maraming false positive and maraming false negative yan. So hindi na talaga antigen or rapid test.
Pasensya ka na, Usec, paubos na oras natin, pero I need for you to address this issue. Kasi some people are saying, yeah, the IATF lifted the requirement. The DILG says they're not requiring the RT-PCR, but they're still letting the LGU have that option. And what happens if 90% of the LGU says everybody still has to have RT-PCR? Then it invalidates what the IATF does and the DILG says.
Well, that remains to be seen. We are having continuous consultations with the governors. In fact, I'll be talking to them this afternoon again for specific issues that they are raising. It's just being politicized, at least in their perspective. No, it's a political decision. Kasi talagang pinakita ko na scientific yung aming ano eh.
Okay. So, subject to discussion pa rin. Oops, I think we lost the good undersecretary's signal. We will now go for a break. Thank you very much, Usec Epimaco Densing III. We will be right back after a few reminders. Stick around. This is Agenda. Welcome back to the program Agenda. I'm Cito Beltran. And for those of you who are just joining us right now, this is the first remote broadcast. I think it is. I think it's our first remote broadcast straight from my backyard here in Lipa City. Medyo nag-set up po tayo dito para pwede naman tayong nasa Batangas, pag gusto nating magbarako, magkaping barako, and we can also be in Metro Manila. Okay, now let's move on. First of all, I'd like to say thank you to you, Undersecretary Epimaco Densing. Sorry we lost that connection, but I think he answered all the important questions. First, as far as the IATF and the DILG are concerned, the requirement for RT-PCR testing is no longer mandatory, except if a local government unit feels that it is necessary or requires it. Kumbaga, meron kasi tayong local government code and meron tayong local government reality. Ang problema na lang, the big question is, what happens if 90% of the local governments, whether governors or mayors, decide that, hey, I don't know about you or we don't know about you, but we need RT-PCR. So, but in the meantime, the good news is, as far as our IATF is concerned and the DILG and of course the PNP, hindi na kailangan, you no longer need to present travel authority or authority to travel issued by the PNP from your place of origin. No longer requires the health certificate that is issued by the barangay from where you are coming from. And I suppose hindi na kailangan yung acceptance. You might be surprised. Hindi ko nga natanong yung kay Usec Densing. Meron pong tinatawag na acceptance daw letter. Kailangan daw merong letter of acceptance na tatanggapin ka. You will be received cordially or accepted by the barangay where you are headed or by the city. Medyo yun, noon yun, no? So, pero at the end of the day, the LGU still makes the decision. Now, let's find out from our next guest. We have with us Professor Guido David of the University of the Philippines and part of the OCTA Research Group, what their sentiments are regarding that. Guido, good morning to you, Professor.
Yes, good morning, Cito. Good to see you again after some time. December yata last time
Yeah.
nagkita.
Oh, pinapahinga muna kita. Puro, ang dami mo ng ang dami mo ng mga naghahabol sa'yo. In any case, I was just trying to figure out what is the role of the OCTA research group now in the reality of COVID, because you are actually getting the data from the Department of Health, making mathematical forecasts and strategies or assessment. So you're more like the speedometer for COVID-19 in the Philippines, as well as a temperature gauge. Right now, if you were the temperature gauge, would you say na medyo lampas na tayo sa normal temperature? Papunta na ba tayo sa hot? O baka maya-maya kamo overheat na tayo?
Well, Cito, that's a very good assessment kung anong ginagawa namin. So wala namang overlap with the Department of Health. So yung OCTA, what we do is a risk assessment. And especially since we're opening up more, we think na there's a need for more risk assessment sa mga local situations, kung ano nga yung mainit, and yun nga, kung ano yung, like you said, yung sa analogy mo, yung speedometer, kung saan medyo mabilis yung temperature, kung saan medyo mataas yung temperature ng pandemic. Right now, there are two centers for the pandemic, Cebu, although nagsa-slow down na sa Cebu. That's the good news. The bad news is, and apparently pag andito ako, lagi may bad news. The bad news is yung ongoing surge sa Pasay. And actually sa NCR, there are two parang hotspots dito. One is centered sa may Pasay and one sa may North Metro Manila, which is around the area of Malabon, Navotas, even parts of Caloocan and Valenzuela. So dito yung mga nakikita nating temperatures increasing. Just to give you an idea, for the past 4 days, yung average number of cases sa Metro Manila due to the surge dito sa areas na to is about 900, a little more than 900. Pero during the holiday from November to December to January to early February, yung average natin sa Metro Manila is only 400. And yung average na yun, in fact, we mentioned sa reports namin na hindi tayo nagkaroon ng holiday surge, hindi rin tayo nagkaroon ng translation surge. And I think that gave us more confidence to relax and open up the economy, which is okay. Kaya lang, there is now what we feel is a game changer. Kasi kumbaga medyo nasanay na tayo sa virus eh. We manage it by wearing face mask and face shield, social distancing. But now there's a game changer kasi this increase na nakikita natin is very fast. Similar siya sa nakita nating increase sa Cebu and also sa Mountain Province and Benguet as the northern areas. And we feel there's a strong possibility na may UK variant na nagsispread na sa Metro Manila.
Oh, okay. Medyo baka mapahama ka na naman yan. Sinabi mong UK variant, because no one seems to neither confirm nor deny it. But at the end of the day, basing it on my discussion earlier with Undersecretary Epimaco Densing, he confirmed what many of us have observed, that many Filipinos have let their guards down. Kumbaga, lumalabas, tapos mayroon ngang face shield, pero nakababa naman yung face mask. Maraming bata, there are a lot of kids going around, and it's only in Metro Manila where you have a tougher or more stricter compliance. Pero ano ba ito? Is it because we let our guards down, or do the numbers tell you that there's something more suspicious than just people getting careless or comfortable?
Well, Cito, it's always a possibility naman na we're becoming more complacent.
Mhm.
Um, and that's a factor to consider. But at the same time, we don't have data. I mean, this is more of anecdotal. Kami nag-conduct kami ng survey, and at least according to yung respondents, 90% wear face masks, 80% wear face shields sa Philippines. Sa Metro Manila, mataas-taas din naman. So we understand sa mga low-risk areas, baka naging complacent yung mga tao. And I've heard of reports na may mga nagbabakasyon and yung mga tao doon sa areas na yun, hindi naman sila nagsusot or nakababa ng face mask, face shield. Sa Metro Manila, generally, ang nakikita ko is compliant naman yung mga tao. So that's a possibility. Pero of course, in the process of yung opening up economic sectors, which we understand kasi I mean, bagsak na yung economy natin. We've also loosened restrictions, and that's part of the balancing act. And we've increased mobility, and these are, drivers of infection rate. So we're not blaming that per se. We're just saying these are factors na nakikita natin. Sometimes there are small factors na nag-add up, and we don't know what the main factor is. Pwede natin increase yung face mask wearing, and then we can see the result.
Yeah, Professor, when I guess medyo sabi ko naman siya, mahina ako sa math, Pero if I go through the history of COVID-19 in the Philippines, the history of the rates of infection, the high and low, okay, meron bang similar event or period? Because we now have 2,000 on a day, on a 1 or 2 day event, 900 in NCR. Was there or were there similar periods, and was there a common trigger in all these periods?
Well, Sita, yung of course yung number na 900 per day, yung last time we have averaged that was around October. Ang difference is nung October pababa tayo. We were on a downward trend. Ngayon pataas. And yung October pababa yun from August kasi nung August nagkaroon tayo ng mga 2,400 cases per day, and then pababa siya nung September, naging mga 1,000 plus, and then nung October mga 900, pababa na siya. So in terms of trajectory, yung similar na pataas na nakikita natin, similar siya nung June, July, August, yung nag-lead up to the MECQ. So we hope it doesn't lead to that. Kaya nga nagsasabi na kami ngayon, bago pa tayo umabot sa situation na it gets parang out of hand or it gets hard to manage. Pero the trigger points are different. So ang trigger point natin nung June, July, August, I think maybe we loosened restrictions na kulang pang testing natin, and that was why we were medyo cautioning against premature opening up. We were not against opening up per se. Parang sinasabi lang namin, konti pang testing natin, maybe it's not yet time to open up. Nung nag-scale up na tayo ng testing, by the time August and September came, okay na yung testing natin. So we were testing enough. So in terms of trajectory lang, similar siya sa July, August, except mas mabilis ito. Mas mabilis yung doubling time niya, kumbaga.
No?
And yes, mas mabilis. Mas mabilis siya nag-increase. In terms of the doubling time and the rate of increase, similar ito doon sa nakita natin sa Cebu and sa Mountain Province. And I know nobody is confirming it. The Department of Health won't confirm this without data, and the data is genome sequencing. Pero right now, wala pa tayong nagawa ng genome sequencing sa Metro Manila, insufficient numbers. Na kapag genome sequencing tayo sa Cebu, nakita nga natin andun yung variant, UK variant or South African or variant of concern, whatever it is. They're similar in that yung mutation nila pare-pareho, nag-mutate yung spike gene, kaya siya 50% more infectious. So we respect that, they don't want to say that, and for us, it sounds like it's speculation na sasabihin namin na may possibility na may variant. We're just saying that the possibility is there. we want to wait for confirmation pag
Okay.
nakapag-genome sequencing na.
I understand that, Professor David. No, I understand that you're not in the business of saying what are the genetic or genome or variant triggers, but I think the numbers are there to tell us whether or not is this a normal occurrence comparable to the history of COVID-19 cases in the Philippines, or is this a highly unusual situation? Kasi ako, mako-concern ako, mag-aalala ako if Professor Guido David says this is a highly unusual rate of infection, highly abnormal rate of spread.
Yes, and it was in the context of what I said, pero yes, mako-concern ka nga, Cito, because this is a highly unusual rate of spread, and this is very concerning kasi this is faster than what we saw last year, and we never had a surge again since last year. Nagkaroon tayo ng holiday scare. We were on the verge of a surge, kumbaga. It was starting to rise, pero we were able to avert it with our messaging. Nag-remind tayo, okay, let's minimize social gatherings nung December, nung Christmas, iwas muna tayo. So by that, na-avert natin yung surge And yun nga, hindi nagkaroon ng surge. Even yung translation, it was a single day event. But this is not a single day event. This is a continuous trend. 4 days na 900 cases per day, 4 days na mga 2,000 cases total sa Metro Manila. This is an unusual event, and yung similarity niya is nakikita natin similar to sa recent surge na nangyari sa Cebu from December to today, although nag-slow down na, but their cases sa Cebu City, it increased from 10 per day, nag-increase siya to 200 per day in 2 months. So ganun kabilis. We might be seeing the same thing here, and that's why we're very concerned. Even yung localized lockdown sa Pasay, parang hindi napigilan itong increase ng cases. And kumalat na siya sa not just Pasay, it's already in parts of Manila and parts of Taguig and Makati.
Okay, so there is cause for concern. Now, what are you suggesting or what should authorities consider? Kasi parang listening to you, would I be an alarmist to say we are going through a third wave?
Well, this is the start of a wave, Cito. I mean, I don't think you'd be an alarmist, and maybe some people might not appreciate saying that. Pero, yung kami sa OCTA, we're in the business of looking at it in the future. Hindi naman yung what we're seeing now. And we've been doing this in the past, making projections, seeing what the trends are. So right now, we can say na, 900 cases, hindi pa naman to malala because our hospital occupancy in Metro Manila is 36%, bababa pa naman. But the trend is it's going up. And our projections show that before the end of March, if the trend continues, we'd be at 2,200 cases per day sa Metro Manila. And 2,200, going back in history, kailan tayo nagkaroon ng 2,200? That was August, nung nag-MECQ tayo. So we're not saying, in fact, ayaw natin mag-MECQ, but we're saying, dito tayo papunta if we don't do anything about it. So we must really ramp up our efforts to stop this spread. Kasi if we don't do anything, abot na naman tayo sa situation na malapit na ma-overwhelm yung healthcare natin. Right now, they're not overwhelmed. This would be problematic because we're already starting the vaccine rollout. Pero although they're starting to vaccinate healthcare workers now, yung second dose nila won't come until maybe about a month from now. So baka hindi pa sila prepared, health-wise for a possible, for an impending surge.
Okay, what do you need or what do you still need in order to figure out that we have a third wave, or what has to happen para hindi magkatotoo yung third wave na yan? We're talking numbers here, we're talking data and in case reports.
Right. I think it's safe to say it's already. I mean, I discussed this with our group in sa OCTA, and some are very cautious. Sabi lang, well, maybe we can wait a little longer to see kung the trend will continue like next week. But at the same time, if we wait that long, baka hindi na natin mapigilan itong pag-increase nito because it's like a snowball effect. Pag habang dumadaming number of cases natin, habang kumakalat siya to more LGUs in Metro Manila, it becomes more challenging to contain that. And we should start now. Maybe balik natin yung messaging. And I think sometimes people are more complacent because maybe the messaging is that everything's okay. And we admit everything was okay in fact, we even said it, parang flat yung trend natin. And we said that maybe 2 weeks ago. Pero nag-start lang ito last week lang. So this is a very new trend. Yes, flat yung trend natin. We were okay from November to February. Pero now we have a surge that's happening. And it's not, this is not, a normal surge. This is not just an uptick na konti lang. This is a real surge. Nag-double na yung number of cases natin. I mean, just about a week ago, nasa 400 lang tayo. Now, we are at 900 cases per day, average over the past 4 days. This is not a friendly uptick.
Okay, the surge doubled in number of cases. What about in the speed of doubling? Kasi sabi mo, in 1 week's time, were the past surges similar in period, or is this faster, and how much faster?
This is faster, Cito. In fact, yung nakita natin sa Cebu, normally yung nagdo-double siya every 2 weeks, yung number of new cases. And this is fast already. This is in the territory of a variant. So pag yung variant nakikita natin, because we looked at several countries kung ano yung speed nila of doubling cases, and usually sa UK, sa Ireland, every 2 weeks nagdo-double siya. So whenever we see LGU na nagdo-double every 2 weeks yung number of cases, we become alarmed. And yun nga, nakita natin yun sa Cebu City, nakita natin yun sa Mountain Province, and sa Benguet. And that's why we were even able to, suppose na andun nga yung UK variant sa areas na yun, even before the confirmation of the genome sequencing came out. Now, like I said, some health officials may not like our claiming na andun yung UK variant, but we have numerical evidence. We have the numbers that give us reason to make those claims. Hindi naman yan random lang na sinasabi natin, sa Davao, sa In fact, we are very careful about it. So we were correct each time. So sa Cebu City, sa Mountain Province, and now we're saying na there's a possibility. We're not claiming that it's there.
Okay, but
So
there
it's
was
the variant. Yes.
Yeah, there was a confirmation of a UK variant in the Mountain Province. Okay, now the question is, but based on what I read, parang isa lang yung nahanap daw. Meron bang data that is saying that there were more cases but that may not have been published by media?
I believe there were more than one Cito sa Mountain Province area, sa Bontoc. I think there were a few. And hindi naman tayo nakapag-sequence ng ganong karami din because limitations yung infrastructure natin. Reagents cost money, and at that time naubusan nga tayo ng reagents. Sa Cebu City, yes.
Parang hinanap, chinek lang, meron ba talaga? Hindi na pinag-uusapan kung ilan talaga yung tinamaan. It was no longer an issue of how many actual cases or infections of the UK variant. It was sufficient to determine that there was a UK variant there. Now, you were going to say about Cebu City.
Yes, and sa Mountain Province, and I believe there were more than one. And sa Cebu City, they also did the sequencing, and I think they found mga 58% of samples had the variant. Hindi sila sure kung UK variant or South African variant, tinawag nilang variant of concern. But if we look at the mutation, similar yung mutation niya sa UK variant and sa South African variant. It doesn't really matter kung anong variant ito, basta mas nakakahawa tong variant.
Okay, well, we have to go for now, Professor David. I hope I did not get you into hot waters, but better that you and me are boiled like frogs kesa naman sa kumalat at hindi ma-realize ng tao that if we don't act now, we will have a third wave. It's not about being an alarmist. It's not about the OCTA group trying to get attention or trying to preempt the authorities. We're all in this boat together, and I thank you for your courage. I thank you for your science. Thank you very much, Professor Guido David.
Thank you, Cito. Thank you for your words. Good morning.
Okay, that's Professor Guido David, University of the Philippines, Professor of Mathematics, and also with the OCTA Research Group. We have to go. We have run out of time, but please stay safe, stay healthy, and put on your mask, put on your face shield, use your alcohol, do your social distancing, because we still have a problem. Good day. God bless you. Thank you, Lord, for a good day here in Lipa.
Jay? Ito, dito. Check tayo. Wala pa yung tool po, hindi pa binibigay sa akin. Ano muna yung lapel muna?